Why is he so uncomfortable already?
So, Mr. Jackson, you can save this for argument. Next question.
What? Wait a minute. Right when Alan Jackson was getting ready to show that you, sir, are a liar, the corrupt judge in this case goes, enough of this. Move on to the next point. God, my darling, I object. I sustain your objection, Mr. Lally. Mr. Jackson, please move on. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law. Last we left him, ATF Special Agent Bryan Higgins has admitted he was romantically involved and romantically interested in Karen Reed, although there was no, relections of the sexual nature. He also admitted that he had a relationship with Brian Albert and the Canton Police Department. And now he has also admitted to drinking and driving not once, but twice, from one restaurant to the Waterfall and Waterfall over to 134 Fairview. Quite heinous. What a gentleman. What a man. What a character. What a person to look up to, huh? Let's begin part 4 of the cross-examination by Alan Jackson of Bryan Higgins. Let's go.
At the end of the night, the group basically discussed going back to Brian Albert's house. Is that right?
There was discussion at the table of, were we going to go to the pizza shop or were we going to go somewhere else? And ultimately, it was 34 Fairview.
Before you left, just so we're clear, when you texted, well, she ignored that text too, didn't she?
Can you say that again?
When you texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her, yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond.
That wasn't my question.
What?
My question is she ignored the text, correct?
Well, I don't know if I don't know what her mindset was. If she purposely ignored the text or she didn't see it, I don't know. I didn't read into it.
Did she ignore the text, Mr. Higgins?
I don't know.
Did she respond to the text?
She did not respond.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
So when everybody was leaving, did you leave before they did, John and Karen, or did they leave before you did?
I don't know.
You said you were the first one back to Brian Albert's house, correct?
Yes.
Safe to say you were one of the first ones to leave.
I was the first one to leave
Waterfall.
the Waterfall. Probably.
I mean, if you're if everybody's herding out and you're the first one to get there, you're probably among the first to leave, correct?
Most likely.
Okay. You never personally discussed going to 34 Fairview with, certainly not with Karen Reed, did you?
No.
And you never discussed it with John O'Keefe either, did you?
No.
You didn't say goodbye or walk over and give John a big hug or anything like that? An
No.
acknowledgement, did you?
No.
You just left.
Well, that's what everybody was doing, just leaving.
Okay. You too, correct?
I did leave, yes.
And all you knew at that point, all you knew was that you were going over to 34 Fairview. You did not know who else was invited over to 34 Fairview.
My impression was that it was an open invitation, and I planned on heading over there.
But you did not know who else was coming.
I had no idea who was coming.
And you didn't say goodbye to John, correct?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming over to 34 Fairview.
No.
Yet at 2:20 in the morning, you texted John O'Keefe, you coming here, correct?
At 2:20,
Sorry, 12:20.
I did.
And that had 3 question marks behind it, correct?
Yes.
Did you text Karen about coming over to 34 Fairview?
No.
So at 12:20 a.m., after you left the Waterfall and made your way over to 34 Fairview, you were more interested in getting John to come to 34 Fairview than you were to getting Karen to come to 34 Fairview.
No, that's not how I would describe that.
But you didn't text Karen, correct?
No, I didn't.
But you did text John.
Yes.
By the way, notice the pregnant pause. That was so intentional. You didn't text Karen, no, but you did text John. Yes. Pause. Let the jury absorb it. Let the people listening to this, the jury specifically, absorb the fact you texted John. Pregnant pause. Classic defense style question. You rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, and then the minute you get to an important one, you pause. It elevates that question and the response to the listener because now they're kind of fixated on it for a few seconds, and it shows the gravitas, the importance behind those words, behind the question, behind the answer. And you'll see how it will unfold.
Your Jeep, your personal vehicle with the plow on it, over to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And you were among the first to arrive because you were doing that thing with the sort of playing around by plowing his driveway.
It was a sweep of the driveway, yes.
And then you indicated that you parked in front of the house, correct?
I did.
I know you've been over this before, but I'm going to ask you one final time so that it's completely clear. Exactly where was your Jeep in front of that house?
By the mailbox.
Okay. Can we have, with the court's permission, Exhibit 66?
Okay.
This is a graphic representation of 34 Fairview, not a photograph. Just to orient you, do you see what's depicted in Exhibit 66?
Yes,
Do you recognize it?
I do.
Do you see the mailbox, which is about right there?
Yes.
Okay. Where was your Jeep in relation to that mailbox?
So the back end of the Jeep, the rear, would have been about around equal with the mailbox, and I was not blocking the driveway.
Okay, so you would have been about there, correct? If the right edge of that highlight is the mailbox being right there, you would have been about right there on the street, correct?
Well, that would have been the front of the Jeep. Where your laser pointer is, it would be the front,
Okay, so the front of the Jeep was facing the flagpole,
towards Chapman Street, correct.
and the rear of the Jeep was basically even with the mailbox strut or stanchion.
It was definitely past the driveway, yes.
Okay. You indicated the plow was a 6-foot, what inch plow?
I think it was a 6'8", 6 foot,
Meaning the width.
meaning the width, yes.
How deep is that plow?
How deep? Like,
2 foot, 3 feet, 6 inches?
I mean, it's probably a few inches.
Okay,
It's light duty, it's on a Jeep.
okay. And it's obviously curved and canted
Curved.
to the right?
No, it wasn't canted at all, it was straight down.
Okay, so it's not like, I guess I'm picturing in my mind, I don't know that I've ever seen one, that the front of the Jeep is not parallel to the plow. In other words, it would plow stuff off to the right. Is that not right?
I'm not understanding what you're trying to communicate to me.
How is the plow positioned as it relates to the front end of the Jeep? Is it perfectly parallel to the front end, or is it canted one way or another?
So when you're driving straight locally, where you're not gonna have to worry about overheating the Jeep, I would just have the Jeep, the plow straight. If I was on the highway for a long distance, I'd be worried about overheating, so I would canter the plow, tilt it up so that air could get through the front grille.
So in other words, you can control it.
I can, yes.
How was it that night? How
So
was it canted that night? Was it straight or canted?
it was straight and straight on.
All right. When you walked into 34 Fairview, you indicated that there were people congregated basically in the kitchen area, correct?
There were some people in the kitchen area, yes.
How many people were at the high top table that you described?
Initially, when I walked in, I believe there was Bryan Jr., and he was flanked by one, possibly two females.
And you indicated that basically you were positioned in that area with your back to the door for most of the evening, correct?
I was like I would describe it as diagonally across from him and had my back to the door that I had come in, which would be the breezeway door.
But at some point, you had moved out of that kitchen area with Bryan Albert, correct?
Well, I briefly went and looked at some photos.
Right. So you moved out of that area with Bryan Albert alone to go to a different room.
Yes, and I think his wife, Nicole, might have popped in the room for a second, but it was brief.
Did you have anything to drink while you were at 34 Fairview?
Well, when I got there, they didn't have any whiskey. I believe they might have put a beer or something else in front of me, and I knew it was going to be a short night there because I just wasn't gonna, I'm not a beer drinker.
You've indicated in a prior testimony that you've never been upstairs in Bryan's house, correct?
Oh.
When you say upstairs, like, you're talking like second floor?
Correct.
Yes, no.
You testified to that in a prior hearing, is that right?
Yes,
In May of 2023.
yes,
And you said specifically, quote, "I've never been upstairs." Is that
Yes.
right? All right. You understood when you gave that statement that you were under oath,
yes,
you were telling the truth,
yes,
same oath that you took here today, correct?
yes.
You indicated that the photos that you saw were on the first
Why is he so uncomfortable already? Why lie about something so innocuous unless it has some meaning? Hey, Bryan?
floor living room area, is that right?
I believe that's where they were, yes.
So the only floor downstairs from the first floor would be what?
The basement,
And the only floor upstairs from the basement would be what?
the first floor.
So if someone were to describe going upstairs to look at the photos that you've described on the first floor, where would they have to be to go upstairs to look at those photos?
Are you saying on the first floor?
Correct. If the photos are on the first floor,
Yeah,
and someone said, "We went upstairs to look at those photos," where would they have to be?
I guess upstairs.
The people would have to be upstairs?
Well, the photos would be upstairs, is that what you're saying?
Where are the people? Where would the people have to be to go upstairs to the living room to look at the photos?
I'm not understanding the question.
If the photos are on
Here's the
first floor,
church, here's the
Yes.
steeple, and here are all the
floor
people.
beneath it is the basement,
Okay,
and someone says, "We went upstairs to look at the photos," where would they have to be?
well, who said they went upstairs?
All right, so Mr. Jackson, you can save this for argument. Next question, please.
What?
If Bryan
Wait a
Albert-
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Right when Alan Jackson was getting ready to hit it out of the park, hit it home, to show that you, sir, are a liar. You have been upstairs. Auntie Bev, the corrupt judge in this case, goes, enough of this. Move on to the next point. You can argue it in closing. You're done. God, it's so important to have a good judge on your case, and there was not one in this case. It's so difficult to try a case when there are two prosecutors in the room and one of them is wearing a robe.
went upstairs to look at the photos, where would you have to be?
Objection.
Sustained.
See, now Lally knows. Now Lally knows. All I have to do is object and she's gonna grant it. She already told him to move on, and he's still, Jackson is like, come on, just let me try, get this. And Lally now jumps in. I know this is my green light. Hey, my darling, I object. I sustain your objection, Mr. Lally. Mr. Jackson, please move on. I hate
Bryan
it.
Albert had a weight room someplace in the house, right?
Yes,
And a gym.
I guess he called it a home gym,
Where was that?
in the basement.
Had you ever been down to that basement before?
Yes, one time.
When was that?
That was during the twins' graduation party. Summertime?
Summertime before
Summertime before, yes.
summer of 2021?
Maybe.
So if Bryan Albert testified
Or
that
could
you've
it-
never been in the basement, that would not be accurate.
Objection.
Sustained.
That's a good one. Okay.
Now, you do recall giving testimony at another proceeding on June 1st, 2023, correct?
Yes,
And of course, the same thing applied. You were under oath. Is that right?
yes,
You knew that it was a crime to lie under oath
yes,
in that proceeding. During the course of that proceeding, you were asked who was in the house and who you saw come into the house, correct?
yes,
And during the course of that testimony, you admitted that you observed a tall, dark-haired male enter the Albert house that night, correct?
I believe that was in reference to ask to somebody's brother in a pickup. I don't know if that was during,
Are you
All I'm asking you,
sure?
Mr. Higgins, is did you say that? Did you say a tall, dark-haired male entered the house while you were there?
I said they might have.
Did you say they might have?
Yes, And that was in reference to
May I have
somebody's
just a
brother.
moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ooh, things are heating up. And I think this is a great place to pause, leave you guys on a cliffhanger once again. And I will see you all in the next episode where we continue with part 5 of the cross-examination of ATF Special Agent Bryan Higgins by none other than Alan Jackson. Bye, everybody.